Hello guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome to another review. Today we're reviewing something a bit different. We're reviewing a drama TV series. Not a very long one, only 4 episodes, but we're looking at Mr. Bates versus the Post Office, starring Toby Jones, who's one of my favourite actors. This is based on a true story, and it's still going on today. It's been in the news lately over the past year or so, because there's still hearings and stuff going about it. What this is about, it's about the post office in the beginning of the early sort of 2000s brought in a new computer system called Horizon, which was based around Fujitsu. And they brought in this new computer system. And lots of little errors started to occur in sort of like local sort of little post offices where the local sort of postmasters started to experience problems, transactions and stuff like that, where their daily amounts were being in a minus, being a shortfall every day. And every time they tried to they contact like a Horizon helpline to get help, every time they try to do that, it made the matter worse, and their balance minus got even bigger. And it got to the point where some people minuses were like 47,000, 60,000, 10,000, 8,000, things like this of pounds. And it's like, well, we know we've not touched it. It's an error in the computer, but the company would say, no, it's nothing to do with it. No one else is having this problem. And in fact, they were lying. Loads of people were having this problem. And when they signed up to this new computer system at these post offices, they all signed a contract stating that they have to replace any fortune. Any money that was lost, they have to replace it themselves. It's their responsibility to make sure that it balances. And there's so many funny little stuff within that contract as well. Like, you're not allowed to blame Horizon for it. You're not allowed to talk about Horizon to anybody else. And also, there's all these little contracts, and if you alter the amount, like the amounts because they're not right, you could become liable and taken to court and stuff like this and get a criminal record and lose your job. So why they signed up for it, I don't know, but they did, obviously, because it's their business, it's a job. Most of these sort of like post offices were little ones that are in little villages and towns that are attached to like a shop. And anyway, so all these sort of things go on. And first of all, we meet Toby Maguire, who's running a little post office in Llandudno, and he plays Alan Bates, the main character. And he's sort of like, we see him working one day, and then the guys in the black suits turn up, telling him that they've got to let him in so he can see the account. Said, no, you're booked for tomorrow. Anyway, eventually he loses his business, he loses his shop, he loses his home, and they have to move out of Llandudno. And they move to a beautiful place in the Snowdonia, actually, but still, that they've lost everything. But he wasn't convicted of anything because he wouldn't sign anything. This is the big problem, I think. A lot of them were sort of like got massive problems because they were signing their balances at the end of the week, and if you signed it, you're saying that's correct. You know what I mean? So he's not been signing it, so they couldn't prosecute or do anything to him because he didn't sign it. So he said, if I sign that, that implicates me of taking that money or whatever. So he never signed any of his sheets. Anyway, so he then starts to sort of like him and his wife. His wife runs the shop part of the business, and so they moved to out of Llandudno and into this sort of like beautiful area in Snowdonia, and it's playing on his mind all the time. And then we join Jo, who lives in Hampshire, and she runs like the village shop and the village post office, and she's having the same problems. And we see her contacting the Horizon help desk, and the information the woman gives her over the desk doesn't help. So she tells her she's got to do this and do that. So she does it, and because she's down 2,000 pounds. It says minus discrepancy 2,000. And so she follows the instructions and does exactly what the woman says, and then it goes up to 4,000 discrepancy. It's doubled right in front of her eyes. And then the woman on the phone says, "Well, you need to replace that money, then." I said, "Well, I've not done anything. I've just told you it's done it in there." And she sort of, "It's your responsibility. You signed the contract. You need to replace that money." And she hung up, and all this sort of stuff goes on. And then the men in the black suits go and visit Jo, and she also gets suspended from her job. And she goes to contact one of her local solicitor who she's friendly with, to be her solicitor. And we all see on the news of a man who's gone to prison for 9 months for the same thing, a postmaster, and he's been told to plead guilty of these charges, because obviously he's had no real choice. And with Jo in Hampshire, she's been given a choice to plead guilty of false documentation over theft, because that way she'll avoid prison. So Jo seems to agree to that, but she has to pay back all the money, £36,000 she was down. So she's devastated. She has to remortgage her house and all this sort of thing to pay this money back. And the post office part of her shop is now closed. She just runs the little coffee shop that was attached to it. And the man that was gone to prison, he comes out of prison and he goes to visit Jo, and he's the sweetest old man. He talks to Jo about his career. He started in the post office when he was 16, and he's worked there for 42 years. You know, he started off as a little delivery postman, and then he's worked there for that length of time, and they still put him in prison. And he explains that, you know, he had no choice but to say that although he didn't touch the money, nothing to do with him, it was all a computer, but nobody would listen to him. And he was advised the only way out of it is to plead guilty. And like Jo, the only way out of it for her was to go with that deal, to plead for that and not for that. And then we meet another young lad who's with his young family. And he runs like a little post office, and he's also got the same problem. He contacts the Horizon sort of help desk, and they don't give him any proper advice. And he's pointing out that this discrepancy is not right and all this sort of thing. But he refuses to believe in it, and he goes through to court with it. And he takes them to court because it's £23,000 discrepancy. And he says, "I've not touched it. There's a discrepancy on the thing." And he shows them that he logged into computer A, but all the transactions were showing up on computer B. So there's something not right. But no one was listening to him. And he ended up losing his court case. And he had to pay the £23,000 back, plus the court fees of £300,000. And these are just innocent people just doing their job. Absolutely none of this was none of their fault. And then so all that happens, and then Alan decides to get a group together, like a sort of help group, and they all meet in this tiny little village in the Midlands. So they all, Alan sets it all up. He goes there and he meets Jo for the first time. She turns up and she brings all these cakes and that because she works at this little cafe. And so we got Alan, Jo, and Alan's wife stood there waiting to see if anyone shows up, and they start arriving in the bucket loads of postmasters will all come there, and they all sit down, and they all start telling their stories, including our man that's been in prison, sweet old boy, and the young couple. And then there's an Asian woman turns up with her husband. I think they're Indian. Couple, and they turn up, and she's the same. She's been told to plead guilty, and she pleaded guilty to the charges to try and stay going out of prison because she's a young mother. But husband's not very happy with it. He said, "No, you should plead not guilty because you've done nothing wrong." Anyway, she decides to change her plea to not guilty, and then she goes down a road of severe depression, to the stage where she gets ECT treatment and stuff like that. And sort of like, so we got this group running by Alan, and they all meet up, and they all discover that they've all been told the same thing: you're the only one with this problem. And Alan says, from this day forward, you will never ever be the only one again. And this sort of thing is really, really hard hitting. It is a heartbreaking show. I was upsetting so much of it, just because these are poor people that have done nothing wrong. Not poor, like no money poor. I mean, just poor people that have done nothing wrong, just working hard, working for their community, working for their local people, and they're being penalised by this big corporate post office company, the Royal Mail. And the story goes on and on, and his group gets bigger and bigger as more and more postmasters join it. And then there's one meeting where they get a union sort of guy there, and he's also experienced it, and he tells them that he went to visit the Fujitsu company to have a little tour, and that he saw something that he wasn't supposed to see, and that was that they can operate and get into the accounts of each individual post office from Fujitsu, because they've all been told that no one else has access to these accounts. These accounts go straight to the head office sort of accounts from their thing, but it's not true. Fujitsu can, and they've been altering it and stuff like this. So something's not right. So they tend to build up a sort of plan of what to do, and Joe gets the local MP involved, and he actually quite good and stands up for the post office workers, and he starts televising on the telly about what's going on, and it's being watched by Paula Venables, who's the CEO of the post office at the time. So she's starting to watch it, and she gets like a little task force together to oppose these claims. Although she knows that, there's probably something gone wrong, because all these people can't be all robbing. Before this system come in, there was none of this sort of discrepancies. But all of a sudden, as soon as this Horizon computer comes in, all these discrepancies start appearing. And anyway, so she denies it all and says she will take a strong hold against anyone that claims against it. And we meet a bit further down in the series. It's 4 parts, so it lasts about 4 hours. We meet another guy who's severely depressed and ends up taking his life over it all. He cannot come to terms with it. He thinks he's failed his family. He's done nothing wrong, but he thinks he's failed his family. He's embarrassed by it, and he ends up taking his life. And so there's blood on their hands as well. And then we meet Amanda, who works with Paula, who's like a very post officey person. They can't do nothing wrong in her eyes, and she's just horrible, as they describe them as the gruesome twosome. But they bring in an independent body called Second Sight, and they bring in like a guy who's I think his name's Bob, and he investigates all these sort of like wrongdoings in companies and people, stuff like that, and he discovers that these postmasters are right, and he discovers that all these sort of things that have gone on. There's one stage where he talks to Joe, because now she's got a conviction. She's been to court, she's pleaded guilty for something she hasn't done, and he's come across papers, going through all the post office papers from the black suit men, that there was no evidence of any money missing. So she shouldn't have even gone to court, but they still took her to court, and she still had to plead guilty. So that's a wrongful, that's just so wrong. You just feel for these poor people. She's remortgaged her house, she's lost her job, her shop, her career, everything, and had to give them 36,000. She's done nothing. And then she asked the question, so where's that money gone? And so Bob, that's what he says, I'm going to try and find out. Anyway, as the series sort of progresses on, we meet more and more postmasters that are experienced, and we see how vile Paula Venables is as well. By the way, she has no compassion, and she just lies and lies and lies, and she sends emails to Fujitsu saying, "Please tell me. I want to hear that no one has the right to sort of see what's these accounts or change them." You know, because she knows that the answer is going to be yes. But anyway, they managed to get hold of those papers and emails and present them to court. And the sort of last episodes of it is like a court case, going through the first procedures of of this whole thing. Because there's so many of them, they need over 550 postmasters to be able to take it to the court, and they've got that. They've got 555 postmasters that have been through this. And it does say at the end it was over 3,000 whatever postmasters experienced it, and 18 of them took their lives and stuff like this, and about 29 of them ended up going to jail and prison for not doing nothing. All this sort of stuff has been going on, and Alan and his wife have also got their own problems. His wife becomes ill with cancer and all this, and Jo, the other one, her mum gets ill with cancer and dies. So all these sort of things are all going on in the background, these poor families' life. It's just like, don't they just get a break? And it's just heartbreaking watching these innocent people that are like pillars of the community. They're there for, like, you know, like Jo runs a little village shop. All the locals know her, you know, and they all go and talk to her about problems, and she helps them out and all this sort of thing. And I was just thinking, she's done nothing wrong but be a good citizen, and if she's been made a victim and been made feel a criminal. So they go through the court cases, and what happens is there's a solicitor that sees and hears some things on the news and arranges to meet with Alan, and he says he's happy to represent him, but it's going to cost us so much money to go through like the high courts, and it does. It costs like millions. But he says you can get funding if you've got over 500 of these postmasters, and they've got 555. So they managed to get the funding to go to court, and they go for the court. We hear the court cases, apart from Paula Venables, who refuses to go to court, says she can't make it. So she sends Amanda, and Amanda's just absolutely useless and rubbish in court. She just drops the penny. And everyone that they question, all these postmasters, do one thing: they tell the truth. And the truth shone through because they won the case. They proved that their post office was dishonest. And it also helped because there was a whistleblower from Fujitsu. A young lad that used to work there told them that what's been happening at Fujitsu. And eventually he decides to take the stand with them, and he does help them, and they win their case. But that's not good enough for Alan, because the thing was, they won 52 million in compensation from the court. But after all the court fees, between the 500 of them, there's about 12 million to be divided. So they all get about 20 grand each, which doesn't cover the losses that they've had to pay out. They've lost their houses. They've had to remortgage stuff. They've had to sell things because these discrepancies have been 40 odd, 60 odd thousand, you know, all stuff like that. So they've not even covered what they've lost, but they're halfway there to clearing their names. And Alan points out to them that although it's not, you know, you're not going to get the money you wanted, you've now got the opportunity to go forward and clear your names and stuff like that. So then Jo goes to court to clear her conviction, and it gets reversed, it gets quashed, because there was 36 claims of her being dishonest. And then when they looked at all the evidence, and they looked at the black suits evidence, said that there was no money missing, it was all quashed. And the poor old boy that went to prison, his case was quashed, and all this sort of thing. So they all start getting their respect back in the community, And that's more than the money, as far as they were concerned. But that's not enough for Alan. He wants to pursue them because it's the government's fault. Because the Royal Mail is run by the government and all this sort of thing. And so he goes to the, gets representation, and it gets proven that it's the government need to, sort this out and further investigate it. And he's also gone to the government to claim the compensation. So the 48 million, whatever they had to pay for the fees, should now be paid to them, because it's been found that none of them are guilty. And in fact, the problem was the post office. So really, the government and the post office should pay the court fees and the costs. So he's now gone on to the claim of that. And that's where the series ends. And it's still going on today. It's on the news at the moment. It's quite prolific on the news. I think last week there was daily live updates from the court where Paula Venables was in there going through her accounts of what happened, and she's still denying everything, but just put your hands up, it's disgusting how these people were treated. Absolutely heartbroken when I watched it. I found it quite a hard watch, just because of that, because these are nice people not doing nothing wrong, losing their homes and businesses and livelihoods and everything like that, when they're just a normal day doing a normal thing. So the series is absolutely fantastic. I'm not going to score it. It's something you really have to watch. It is definitely a sort of 10 out of 10. It is something I think that you should watch. It's absolutely fantastic. Really well acted. Toby Jones as Alan Bates is fantastic. Absolutely amazing actor. Absolutely loved it. It was initially on ITV, I believe. I've actually got the disc. You can watch it, I believe, on ITVX, which is like their iPlayer sort of thing. So you can watch it, I think, on that. But it is definitely worth a watch. It's extremely well acted. It's a heartbreaking story because, like I said, it involves poor innocent people not doing anything wrong. There's no crime or there's no violence in it. It is just like a pre-court case and court case sort of show. But it's what these poor people go through is almost horrific, and it just goes to show that this is the Royal Mail, the post office that we all look upon as being trustworthy, a trustworthy company that we can rely on our parcels and our savings. Some people still put savings into the post office, and are these people to be trusted? I don't think they are. I've actually got no faith in the Royal Mail, to be honest. Not the workers. It's not the workers' fault, you delivering men, you sorting off. It's nothing to do with them. It's the hierarchy that are in it for money. They're not in it to provide a public service. They're there to make money, and it's disgusting. And this brings it to the forefront. And this is a true story. And it's really, really an important story, because I don't believe the post office is the only business doing this. Look at all these other electrical and gas companies at the moment making millions off people's hardship. That needs looking at too. Watch it, guys. It's brilliant. See you soon.